Craven's mad hunt of costumed villains continues in Central Park. Can Peter Parker overcome? Well, let's hop into the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 19, Hunted Part 3, and find out for ourselves, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we join this issue, we find out whatever became of Black Cat. It seems that her and a bunch of other costumed villains are being kept in reserve and not exactly being hunted just yet. Felicia probably could have escaped a long time ago, but it's not just herself she's worrying about anymore. There's still the matter of Billy Connors, the Lizard's kid who Felicia is trying to help out. Kids, am I right? So inconsiderate they make even the most basic supervillain kidnapping way more complicated. And hey, speaking of kids, how's Kraven and his own clone kid dealing with the admittedly smashing success of this newest endeavor? Well, Kraven Jr., as we discover, is actually getting a little antsy. He was all on board for his father's plan when it involved putting on the greatest hunt of all time. The only problem is the kid thought that, they'd actually be doing the hunting. Get some real father-son bonding time in, only with more murder. Kraven doesn't want to get involved, not yet anyway, not until he knows Spider-Man will be there to assumedly end his life and his pain. Spider-Man is, however, dealing with his own pain right now. He's still mourning the death of the Gibbon that happened in the last tie-in issue, and in his distraction, he actually gets blindsided by a bunch of trophy hunters. These guys are ridiculously armed to the teeth with rocket launchers, and they probably could have finished Spider-Man off too if they weren't so busy talking about taking pictures for their social media feed because, shitty trophy hunters got a shitty trophy hunt. If nothing else though, in kicking these guys' asses, Spider-Man is finally able to discern that these are VR-controlled robots he's dealing with here and not real people, which arguably means he could start cutting more loose if he wanted to. Never let the golden rule of stories like this be forgotten. You can be as violent as you possibly want to be if your opponent is a robot. Now, where did all the animal-themed supervillains get off to? Well, it seems they're all hiding out in a hole under the directions of the Vulture, who has used the chaos to more or less appoint himself the apex predator here. Why, he even tries to use the death of the Gibbon, a harmless supervillain who everyone seemed to actually like and know pretty well, as a rallying cry for the other villains to start following him. He says that he and the Gibbon fought heroically side by side against the trophy hunters, and it was with his help Adrian Toomes managed to discover some of the components inside the robots could be used to help everyone escape. Spider-Man, knowing the truth, is quick to challenge this account, saying Adrian is just putting himself over to a very easy, captive audience. It is true, though, that Toomes did manage to repurpose some of the robot's tech, but that the rest was all a lie. Vulture led the Gibbon astray and is now using his death to fuel himself. Kinda like his namesake, kinda like a real Vulture, actually. And for a second there, you think Spider-Man might actually have been able to sway the group of villains, but then the Rhino pipes up, who has plenty of reason to be mad at Spider-Man, what with being left behind to get captured by Taskmaster and Black Ant, while Spider-Man tried to save his aunt and a bunch of other bystanders from a crumbling restaurant. The worst part being that Rhino was actually kinda sorta beginning to turn over a new leaf. He even worked with Miles Morales for a minute. Needless to say, getting rebuked by a bunch of dudes in silly costumes is pretty disheartening for Spider-Man, but the worst is actually still yet to come. You see, even though Black Cat actually manages to stage an escape for herself and Lizard Jr., little Billy doesn't want to leave. He's too petrified by fear, but he says that his father is certainly coming for him. He's only half right. Indeed, Dr. Kirk Connors is coming, but that's only because he got grabbed by Taskmaster so he could get put into the game. And when the Lizard's on a rampage, there's no telling if he's going to be friend or foe. And really, Spider-Man has more than enough foes to deal with right now. He could really bother to get some friends, and while beating up more of the robots, he ends up coming upon the most unlikely of ally. And that would be Eric O'Grady, the Black Ant. He had gotten screwed over by Taskmaster and Arcade, and now out of spite, he's ready to pull this whole operation down from the inside, but he's gonna need Spider-Man's help to do that as the comic ends. And so that was the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 19, everybody, and overall I thought it was decent. Nick Spencer finds some interesting opportunities to add a lot of characterization to villains who feel like they haven't gotten it in forever. I like seeing Vulture actually getting to use his big brain for a change and being something of a master manipulator, instead of just some crazy old guy in a bird suit who flings himself at problems over and over again. Same goes for the Lizard. I like the idea of him being painted as a Liam Neeson-esque father on a revenge mission. The only character who I feel, though, isn't nearly as well served is Spider-Man himself. In fact, despite this being part 3, technically part 4 or 5 if you count the tie-ins, which you should, because they're turning out to actually be important, Spider-Man himself still very much feels like he's stuck in first gear and like the event hasn't really started for him for whatever reason. Ultimately, though, I'd still give this one a 7.5 out of 10. It's enjoyable, but I'd like to see more from it. Hey there, everyone. It's your old pal Cave Joel again. I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and if you did, why not take a closer look at some of these other videos I have available from the channel. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Cave Joel, so you're always up to speed on what I'm doing next. And hey, if you're in a supportive mood, why not check out my Patreon page? Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and you can do so for as little as $1 a month. I would really appreciate it, and with that, I will be sure to be back again next time with even more great comic content that smacks of greatness. Bye-bye, everyone.